Hi there, my name is Neil Tickton. I'm one of the creators of the Smart Spacer. We're going to show you how to put together one of our 6-panel systems. This is a clampless version. It's the medium size for this 60-inch table, but it works the same for the smaller size and the larger size on the round tables. Now to start off with, your kit comes with a series of parts. You have the plexiglass panels, as you'll see around the outer edge here. You have the slotted rod. You have the top cap, which has the logo, and it has these decorator holes around the outer edge. I have a couple of screws, the hex wrench, a panel holder which goes on the bottom of each of the panels. We'll show you that in a moment. And then of course you have the base, which looks a lot like the top cap. Now you'll notice that in each one of these slots here, there's a small piece of silicone that looks like this. Please leave those in the slots. They're meant to be there. So what you're going to do to start is take the rod, insert it into the bottom so that the slots of the base align with the slots of the rod. Put in the screw, and what you're looking to do is to hand tighten it so that it's nice and snug. It doesn't have to be terribly tight, just nice and snug. And place the rod with the base in the center of the table. If your table happens to have a hole, like for an umbrella, the base will cover it up and it won't be an issue. If you have a crease in the middle of your table, like it folds in half, just bring the rod one side or the other for when you're doing the initial setup. Now, a lot of times when I'm doing Smart Spacer installations, I'll grab a pair of gloves just so I decrease the number of fingerprints that I'll put on the plexiglass. But we're going to start off with here, taking one of the panel holders, like this, and we're going to be putting it onto the bottom of the panels. Now, the way that these panels look is there is a hard 90-degree corner on one end and a curved edge on the other. The curved edge goes on the outer edge. It's for in case people are come into the contact with the end of it or not. But we do want the straight edge to be up against the rod. When you take the panel holders, they simply slide onto the bottom. But the position of where you're putting it is important. It makes it a lot easier for when you're first putting the Smart Spacer together. You want to make sure that it's at least halfway from this corner to the rounded edge, but not so far that it goes off the end of the table. So in this case, we're going to be putting it right about here. Now, there's a little trick with the Smart Spacers that when you're putting them into the slots, you want to make sure that the plexiglass is lined up with the slots and with the slot that's in the base. If you're off to one side or the other, it becomes a little bit more difficult to get the panel in. So the easiest way to do this is if you take the corner of the Smart Spacer, like that, and slide it down gently into the rod. And that way, you can feel that it's all the way snugly down into that base slot. Now, when you install a Smart Spacer with this many panels, it's often helpful to have a second person just to help you control the panels a little bit until you get it all together and screwed tightly. So I'm going to ask my assistant to do exactly that. Now, each one of these panels has the panel holder down at the bottom, which will make this a little bit faster to do. And I'm again going to take the corner and slide it on down. So that it goes into the base. If you're finding that it's a little bit of a challenge, there's a good chance that you are off just a hair in one direction or another, that you're at an angle to the slot, and that's just giving you a little bit of extra friction as you're doing it. Panel number 4, same thing. Put it in the corner, line it up. And as you can see, this is one where I was not quite lined up properly, and there you go. Now the Smart Spacer may or may not stick a little bit out of, or the plexiglass panels may or may not stick a little bit out of the top of the rod. And that's okay. In fact, you'll see that the second time you put these together, it'll be in a little bit different position than it was on the first. Last one. And now we want to make sure that each of these is pulled in as far as they can go. If, for example, you didn't align the base quite right, you'll see that it's at an angle, it's sitting a little bit out, and you just want to slide it in. If your table is uneven, you may want to pull the panel holder down just a little bit on the panel in order to make it raise the panel up. Once all the panels are in, and you'll see that they are all in the slots, you're going to take the slot side of the cap and you're going to align it with the top edges. And then usually what I will do is I'll start with one and I'll draw it towards me until I get to the second one. That aligns it, and you can see I'm already locking into all of these. Now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and start the screw, but I'm not going to tighten it. Just like that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and with my assistant's help, I'm going to push in each panel to make sure that it is all the way into the slot. You don't want there to be any air gap between them as you're doing this. Now, as you have done that the first time, you're going to start to tighten them. And you're going to check them then again to make sure that they are all the way into the slot. Being all the way into the slot is absolutely key to the clampless version of the Smart Spacer. We're going to keep making sure it's tight. And in this case, we're going to not just tighten it, hand tightened amount, but we are going to tighten it basically as hard as we can do it. You might hear small sounds and stuff like that. You want to again make sure that all of these are all the way in. If the panel is not in the center rod slot, you'll see it bow out like this from the panel. You'll actually see it right up against it, but you want to make sure that they're all there. Once you're confident that each one of these is all the way in, that's where you're going to crank it as hard as it goes. And now at this point, we want to make sure that each one of the panels is fully in and is tight. Grab the panel, grab the center, tug on it. If the panel is not moving, then it is seated correctly. This one was not quite in all the way, and we needed to do it a little bit more. We'll check this one more time. Last panel. And now we know that the Smart Spacer is in good shape. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing this in your own location, but as a demonstration of how secure it is, if you take the Smart Spacer, which I'm going to pull towards me a little bit, you can pick it up and you can even shake it. If you find that there's any rocking at all with your Smart Spacer, it's because your table is not likely to be completely smooth. It might be a little bit tilted to one side or the other, and all you need to do is to adjust the panel holders up or down on the panel in order to account for the rocking. The Smart Spacer will be able to accommodate the table that may have a bridge or a break or something like in it in order to make it all sit even and stable as you're using it. That's a Smart Spacer. I hope you enjoy it. Let us know if you have any questions. Thanks for using it.